If knowledge is power, learning is your superpower, and it's a superpower we all have inside of us. I always tell people that your life is like an egg, that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if it's broken by an inside force, life begins. Mm-hmm. And all great things begin on the inside. And everyone listening to this, watching this, you have greatness inside of you. You have genius inside of you. And I love this conversation because it's all about how do you let it out? And if you're struggling, you're suffering, you're overloaded with all these, it's not completely your fault because we weren't taught. We weren't prepared. We live in a world of autonomous electric cars and spaceships that are going to Mars, but our vehicle of choice when it comes to learning and education, it's like a horse and buggy.
Yep.
They say of Rip Van Winkle, the guy who slept for decades, if he woke up today, the only thing you would recognize in our world are schools. And this is not a slight against teachers. My mother became a school teacher because she didn't know how to help me, special education teacher. It's just because teachers are some of the most committed, caring, compassionate individuals that I know, but it's a system issue. The system hasn't changed as much.
It's $5.7 trillion of the GDP of the U.S. and $1.2 trillion is on education.
Yeah.
Think about how pathetic that is.
Yeah. And so, it's whoever's listening to this, that's why we're such big advocates on self-education and self-empowerment. And,
yes.
But the purpose of education and self-growth is not learning just for learning's sake. It's for application. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when people understand why they're learning something, they're more likely to retain it and use it. And so when that happened, I just found my mission, because I wanted, my goal is really, because I grew up with a broken brain, when we're talking about my purpose, my purpose really is to make better, brighter brains, to light them up. They say we use a very small percentage of our potential. We use all our brain, but in terms of its potential and its efficiency and effectiveness is very different. And so my goal is no brain left behind. That's my purpose for being here. I've done this for over 25 years, and I'll be doing it the next 25 years. And I just want everyone who's listening, if there's an opportunity, get one insight, one idea, just to be able to have positive impact on your brain, because your brain controls everything.
Yes.
And that's really my goal. And
so let's, first of all, we could end right now, and there's a lot of value just in that conversation, right? I mean, we all hear stories of other people's issues and how they overcome them, and it inspires us, right? To say, me too, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, he did it, she did it, I can do it too. The thing that I wrote down, it's so funny, we had all these questions, and I'm like, forget all that stuff. I want to talk brain optimization, right?
Yeah.
How do I intensify my superpower?
Let's do this.
I want to talk about specifically the elimination of ants, which I know falls under brain but I want to separate that and really hit it hard. Yeah. And then I want to get some super learning tips around memory, retention,
remembering names,
remembering names, which every one of these clients needs.
Of course.
So you pick which one do you want to attack first?
Let's go into this. All right, so
brain optimization.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So give me like, what are 5 things I should do? And I know I've watched 10 ways to do it. But give me like the top 5.
Yeah, I will. And so this is, and I love this format. So let's turn this into a little master class. So everyone who's listening, you're listening to it, you're driving, you're at the gym, or you're listening at night, whatever it is, as best you can, take notes on this.
Please.
Because everyone knows there's a learning curve, but there's also a forgetting curve. Yeah. They say the science is saying that within 2 days, 48 hours, we lose 80% of everything that we learn. Because learning is remembering. Socrates said that, but we're not taught. It should have been the 4th hour back in school: reading, writing, arithmetic, and remembering, retention. So here's some of the most powerful keys to really optimize your brain. And again, this is your wealth. This is your wealth tool. More people upgrade their phones. I mean, think about how often you upgrade your phones.
I love this metaphor.
Your operating system, on your computer. You get all these updates, but when are people updating their brains?
Some people's brains are running on DOS right now.
I know, right? And they feel it because they feel slow compared to the way the world is.
Of course.
And so everything here is meant to. You don't have to work harder. I mean, you certainly working hard is definitely a big part of it, but you want to be, like sharpen the saw, Stephen Covey.
That's right.
You want to work smart, and so the essence of this is, all right, number 1, a good brain diet. All right, let's start with the food that you eat.
Yep.
Because what you eat matters, especially for your gray matter. Mm-hmm. And so this is in an area that most people aren't familiar with. It's called neuronutrition. And I did 3 shows on this. And neuronutrition is because your brain actually requires different nutrients than the rest of your body.
Yep.
And most people are not feeding their brain,
No.
and they wonder why they have brain fog. They wonder why they're slow to think. They're wondering why their reaction time is, not what it needs to be. And so some of my favorite brain foods, I'll just give you some. And I recommend everybody talks to their functional medicine doctor.
Get your blood work done.
Exactly. See nutrient profile.
Exactly.
And then also, your biome, maybe certain foods that you're eating could be creating the challenges that you're having.
Yes.
And people don't know, because that's your gut is your second brain.
Yes.
And there's a huge connection between the two. And so do that. But as in general, the genius, brain foods, you have avocados, right? The good fats. You have blueberries.
Yeah.
I call them brain berries.
Yeah.
And those antioxidants are very neuroprotective. You have broccoli,
Yeah.
which also has high levels of fiber also as well. Olive oil, which I love. Olive oil. After that, if your diet allows, eggs are very, very, very powerful. Green leafy vegetables, very good. And I would, when I'm going through this, like you can make your grocery list, or next time you go to your grocery store, you go food shopping, these are your super brain foods, if you will. But also rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 when I talk about these 5 things. How well are we doing? So from there, you have I would say number 7 is wild salmon, if your diet allows. Sardines are really good. Caviar is extraordinary, very high in DHA, the omega-3s that are very important. From there, I would say turmeric, the spice, that golden. I make in the morning, sometimes I'll make this golden milk, which has like turmeric, pepper, which helps you absorb it about 500% better, a little bit of honey and some almond milk heated. It's wonderful. It lowers inflammation, and really inflammation is the name of the game, because you want to balance out the inflammation in your body, because that leads to a lot of challenges and degenerative diseases. And then from there, I would say walnuts are really good.
Yep.
Walnuts and almonds. Notice a walnut also looks like a human brain.
Exactly.
Which is
wife
wild.
just said that same thing. She goes,
That's
I'm
interesting.
eating little brains.
Exactly.
Right.
And so you're eating. It's interesting also that the brain I don't want to get meta here, but it's the brain named itself, which is kind of interesting also as well. But there's certain foods that actually look like the organ it's serving.
Yes.
And I don't know if this is science, but it's definitely a good mnemonic memory strategy. Like, for example, you cut a carrot and it looks like the human eye, and carrots are good for your eyes. You cut a tomato and it looks like it has 4 chambers like the human heart.
Yep.
And so certain foods, so you can remember that really easily, because walnuts look like human brains. And finally, another one, dark chocolate.
Yeah.
What's good generally for your mood? It has to be dark chocolate, not milk chocolate.
Yeah.
Tends to be good
And
for your
probably
mind
not a
also
Snicker
as well.
bar, in case you guys are wondering.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering.
So those are good brain diet. And
So flip it. First of all, I got to just say, right?
Yeah.
So here's my breakfast every day. 2 eggs, right? So I do take my pan out. I put ghee butter in.
Oh, good.
Right. Then I throw like the biggest handful of spinach in it. Right. I throw broccoli on top.
Wow.
Then I do 2 eggs. I open up a can of olive oil sardines.
Yeah.
Put the olive oil in my dog food. Right. So my dog is just in seventh
Oh, my
heaven.
goodness.
Put the balance in. Right. And then cook it up and put a half an avocado on top.
I love that so much.
Right. And
Dude,
I take that photo and people are like, sardines. And I'm like, I'll just hashtag brain food, hashtag brain food,
Exactly.
hashtag brain food. Right.
Exactly. And because people wonder when they have challenges with it. I could see what we're talking about. We're talking about the hardware, and after this we could talk about the learning strategies, which is the software. But you can learn, I could teach somebody how to read 3 times faster or remember names, but if their hardware is not in line,
100%.
then when is
If
it?
the brain is foggy, it doesn't matter how much information you take in.
Exactly.
I do these conferences and I'm like, guys, maybe you shouldn't drink while we're at the conference. We're trying to improve our brains and move forward. And some people like a conference is a release for them, right? They're away from their day to day. They're with their buddies and they party. And I'm like, this is not the time to be partying, right? And side note, flip it.
Yeah.
5 or 6 foods to avoid.
Yeah, this is so on the opposite side. What we're avoiding are processed foods.
Yep.
Generally things that.
Like fat food, or they call it fast food, I think. Fat food is what I like
food,
to
is
call
that
it. Yeah, that's what I call it.
Yeah, I mean, the people call it pretty much the standard American diet, sad diet.
Exactly.
You want to avoid processed foods. Really, what's really bad are the processed oils.
Yeah.
Because that really messes. It's not only creating havoc on your heart, but whatever's good for your heart's going to be good for your head. And that's why exercise is, one of those 5 things. And
Yeah.
so, yes, I believe that you should all have a to-do list, but it's also a not to-do list
Yes.
of the things. You say no to good, so you say yes to great, which checking your phone the first hour of the day. We talked about that, but also the foods that you want to be able to avoid.
Yeah.
Because it'll just slow you down. And it's not that eating one donut is going to ruin your life, but it's the consistency.
It's the compound
of
effect.
that. Absolutely, because consistency compounds. And so that's the good brain. That's a good brain diet.